Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Aviation Business Series. Okay, so it's different, right? Great. It's because we have gone out again, but we have come out to come and give you something great. We are here to speak to a beautiful lady who has been in the industry, the aviation industry, some time back and has a story to share with us. What are we talking about today? We are talking about adapting to the changing times. Yes, and we are here with Madam Petra Asamoah. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, so I would want you to really introduce yourself, although we have a bit of the background of who you are and what you're doing now that we will share to our viewers. But I want to hear from you.
Okay.
How do you define yourself?
Oh, define. Well, you already know my name, but I'm a marketing practitioner, and in the last 14 years, most of my work has been in leading teams in commercial operations, business development, sales, marketing, and customer service. I spent 9 years of my career in the airline industry. That's where I started from. So my first job straight out of university, my national service job actually was with an airline, and that's where I started off my career. I started off as a front desk executive, and then I moved the call center, so over the phone customer service, sales, reservations and ticketing. Then I went to the counter, so reservations and ticketing from the counter.
Awesome.
And then I moved into sales 12 years ago. So 2008, I became a sales executive and I moved up. And at the time I was exiting in 2016, I was general manager with responsibility over commercial operations for Ghana, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, Niger, Chad, Benin, and Togo.
Did you get everything? If you didn't get, please let me see the comments. Now, this is somebody's starting life. It's not even the middle. This is the beginning.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning. So I'm so excited because it gives us the platform to look at the changing scenes of your life. And that is how come we decided to come speak to you about adapting to change.
Okay. So now, the second part of the story is going to be I moved from the airline industry and I went into media, which is a very big difference in terms of industry. So airline industry up until 2016, and then I went and worked in media for about 33 months. And currently I work in manufacturing.
Okay, please. She's not going to tell you all the story before we end. Okay, now the first part. Okay. You came in as a national service person.
Yes.
Into an airline. How did that happen? Did the company pick you, or how did it happen?
Oh, the story of how I started national service in the airline industry is very interesting, but I'll summarize it. I worked, whilst I was in university for my first degree, I worked every vacation with a particular company. And when I was leaving, so maybe level 200 long back, I did internship there. Well, it wasn't internship, it was work. I worked, I was paid. I did the same thing level 300. So the natural progression was going to be, when you're done with school, come and do national service with us. But my relationship with my boss had evolved so much that we had become father and daughter. And I felt that, we had a discussion, I felt that it won't be a serious environment for me any longer. So the agreement was, okay, go and do national service somewhere else. And interestingly, at the time, Delta Airlines was just starting off in Ghana. And my boss at that time was, I think he was doing a job for the MD of the GSA. And so he just recommended me to him and said, well, I have a daughter who is looking for national service placements. Would you like to hire him? He actually said, so my Delta boss actually said, oh, they had no plans on taking national service people, but let me meet her. And so I went to meet him, we had a discussion. He
like
said,
this
okay,
one?
Yes. He said, okay, we'll take you. So I was the first national service person to start off there. I think we ended up taking 2 other colleagues of mine to join us for service. So
Please hold on.
I had actually been posted.
Just hold on.
Okay.
Okay, so now when you began, the first time that you went to see him, were you this articulate?
No.
Okay. Because now sometimes when you are in school and you get a project work, a lot of students don't take it as a time to practice.
Yeah.
Now, I have viewers who are watching us, and we really want to make sure you understand the journey. Now, every opportunity that my lady had, she used the opportunity to practice. So it was not only an issue of theory that you were learning in school, but every vacation you could go in and work.
Yes.
And that was the starting.
That was the starting point. And I must say that experience helped me a lot. There were two reasons why I wanted to work during vacations. One, I wanted money, but I also wanted to get busy. So it was important for me to be able to leave the house every day and do something. And the opportunity to go out was exciting for me. So I remember just walking up to my former boss and saying to him in church, I want to work. And he says, why do you want to work? And I said, because I want money to pay school fees, which was a lie. I said, okay, if you want money to pay school fees, don't worry, I'll help you. And I said, oh no, I want to learn. So that's how I got my first job. I changed my story very quickly. But it's when I met my Delta boss, when you asked the question, were you this articulate? The answer was no, because I've grown over the last couple of years. But I've also had a lot of experience with meeting influential people. Because during my internships, one of the things I did was I worked on a project for an old school year group. And one of the things I did was selling raffle tickets. So they're trying to raise funds for their year group to build and to do a water project in their school. Okay. And my job was to go around to all the influential old students. They just pretty much gave me a list, and I had to find my way to their offices and sell the raffle tickets. And recently I was thinking about it. I had actually forgotten that that's one of my first sales jobs, because it was. The challenge was meeting people you've never met before, being able to explain why you are there and get them to buy the tickets.
Okay. So, no, that's something I'm learning now. Even before you knew you were a sales pro, allow me.
Thank you.
Okay. So even before you knew this is for you, sales is for you, you started exhibiting the skill and the interest.
Yes.
It was the interest.
But my journey into sales was very accidental. Totally accidental.
Accidental.
Yes. There was no, when I was stepping out of the University of Ghana in 2006, there was no thought in my mind that I would work in marketing.
Were you about to say there was no plan?
There was a plan. The plan was, when I was leaving school, the plan was two things. Get a job, and secondly, be financially independent. That was it. I didn't have any qualms about, I just knew that wherever I did my national service, I had to work very hard to be retained, because I needed to be financially independent, pay my own rent, my own bills, all of those things. So that was the plan. But as to what I was going to do, I wasn't too rigid about it. I remember when I was about to finish national service, my MD at the time called me to his office and said, so Petra, what's your plan? And I didn't really have an answer. I was just beating about the bush about how I want to become a manager, but in what? Okay. So after working, doing national service, being retained, I was working in customer service call center. So I think it was more in terms of my environment, noticing what I was good at, my supervisors noticing what I was good at and giving me the opportunity to function in that area. So I didn't know that I would work in a marketing role or in sales for that matter. But after, I think my second year, I had my first appraisal. So at this time, I was working in ticketing. Okay. And you may know Uncle Isaac Ashon. He said to me, so in my appraisal, where do you see yourself in 3 years? And I said to him very naively, I think in 3 years I'll be out of this company because my job right now is boring.
Okay.
And
so there's something that we mentioned. You know, when we want to change, sometimes it comes because we are forced to change.
Yes.
Other times it comes because we know we want a change. Now, one part of your journey, you knew you wanted a change because you started feeling bored.
Yes.
In another part, did you ever feel like you had to change?
Yes, absolutely. So moving from ticketing to sales was my conversation with my boss, and then them recognizing that, okay, she had skills or natural abilities that she could function in frontline sales. So that's how I moved. But my transition from the airline industry into another industry was because I felt that at this point, I was a general manager. I had been in the same function for about 3 years. So even before I became general manager, I was sales and operations manager, and which was pretty much the same role as GM. It was just the title that was different. And so at that point, I felt that I needed to do something else. I needed to exercise more of the capacities that I had developed. I wanted to test the things that I had learned over the years. And being in a multinational organization had its own limitations. For marketing, there was a lot of adaptation of strategy. So a lot of the strategic direction was from our global headquarters or the marketing communications office
and you
outside.
had to follow.
And you just follow. So at that time, I'd also just transitioned, completed a master's degree in marketing. I had qualified as a chartered marketer. I was looking for more opportunity to test, to be creative, and to test the things I had done. Plus, organizationally, I had peaked. So I was GM, there was no way up. I was quite young. To be GM at that age was maybe, I'm sure I possibly would have been one of the youngest GMs in the airline industry at the time.
You have to just check, so maybe you could mention later.
Possibly. But then I felt it was too early to settle. So I kept telling my mentors, I feel like I've settled. And this is 4 years ago, so I was 4 years younger, and I'm not even 40 now. So
okay,
I
so
just
we
felt
got
like I had settled too quickly. So I wanted to do something else, and all of those things were just the reasons. And it took me a year.
Because I needed to check, because before you take any decision, if it's forced, like COVID-19 is like a force, you don't have the chance to do all those checks.
Yes.
It's a force. You either survive or you don't survive. Okay. But when you have the opportunity to do a change by yourself, what are those? Give me like 3 basic things that we should check on, or we should have on our checklist before we take any kind of change or move.
Let me just walk you through my path. What I did was, first of all, I had a lot of time for introspection, thinking about what I want to do next. Going through the thought process of where do I want to grow to. That was the first thing. So the introspection. Then the second thing was I spoke to people within my network, and I said to them, I'm thinking about a move. And I need your help if you know of any interesting opportunities in these areas. And I had a list. So I gave them a list of industries I'd like to work in based on the skills I had at the time. And then, so that second step led into the third step, which was going to, the third step was speaking to an HR professional, so an HR guru. I went and sat with Mrs. Betty Zomelo, and I explained my issues to her.
Is she a coach or a counselor?
No, she's an HR consultant. So she runs a recruitment company, and it's quite well established. Zomelo and Associates. So I sat with her a year before I moved. I walked her through my journey while I was thinking of moving. She discussed everything with me, and she said, okay, and she advised me. And then from that point, it was a year before I finally found the right opportunity. So I got different opportunities, but they didn't settle well in my heart up until I got the one in end of 2015. So I eventually put in a resignation December 2015. I started a new job in January 2016.
Into a media?
Yes, into a media organization.
From an airline into media.
Yes.
Because, naturally the marketing side was quite interesting towards the media. Okay, so I'm
But I actually went into an administrative role. So
for media?
Yes. I was a head of station of a radio station, a new radio station that we're starting out. So I was part of the launch activities, starting it out, recruitment of new staff, all of that, putting the programming in, running it as a new station, which was something I had never done, which was something that was very exciting.
I think that is it. That is it.
You know,
When
so-
you want the change, it has to have some excitement
Yes,
to it.
yes.
But were you then financially independent, or you were getting?
So when you say financially independent, you could say to the point where you don't have to work.
You know, to the point where you have, I mean, the financial gurus will say you have to have like 3 months or 6 months salary.
No. That was not. I didn't have that strategy. I had that strategy later. So when I moved from the airline industry into media, and then I was thinking about moving again, that's when I started thinking about have a buffer. So have about 6 months part of your salary or an investment somewhere that, touch wood, if you don't get a job, you can live on. Yeah, so that became, but when I was leaving Delta, it was just, I need a change. It wasn't as strategically planned as that.
Okay.
Plus, I think the thing was, I felt I wasn't being forced, so I was quite comfortable, which was part of the problem. And so I wasn't in a hurry to move. Okay. And so I was very calm in choosing my next job. I felt that nobody is compelling you to leave. Just make the right choice. And then when you have, and I also didn't want to burn any bridges. So I didn't want it to be like I had just been taking a decision off the cuff and just moved out. So I took my time. There was no rush. It took me a year, but it was tough. It was very difficult. I mean, when you work in a place for 9 years, deciding to leave is like you're breaking away from a family. It was very difficult. The getting to the point where I was now signing with the other company, agreeing, it was very difficult. I kept thinking about it and wondering, am I making the right decision? And I remember very well, the night before I signed my new contract, I had a conversation with my husband. I said, what about if I'm making the wrong decision? I said, well, if you make the wrong decision, we're going to stick with the consequences. And I said, well, that's all the assurance I need. That even if it's the wrong decision, we're in this together. Yes, so that was it. And the first 2 weeks, so of course I had to serve a month's notice, but the first 2 weeks were the most difficult because I now had to have the difficult conversation with my boss and then break the news to my colleagues. But it was okay. I think I've also had I've been able to maintain a good relationship with all my colleagues and my former boss, and we still interact quite well. But it can be difficult when you're leaving because it was all I knew. I mean, for 9 years that was home, really. Every morning, my life revolved around my job and what I was doing then. So yeah.
Wow. So it's getting hot. It's really getting interesting now. I think most of the items we've spoken about now feels like it's on the individual level, so I hope you got your part. Now on the corporate front, if I'm a business owner and I want to change over to maybe another aspect or change my kind of business, do you have any advice that you would want to give us before we continue with your last?
So COVID has shown us that in spite of our best plans, things can just go haywire. And there are a couple of things I've noticed. There's an opportunity for you to just hold on and continue doing what you're doing and hope that the tide will change. But there's also the opportunity for you to pivot and try and do something different whilst you're waiting for times to come back to normal. Now, I don't really think that we'll ever go back to normal. I feel that there's some things that have changed and will not go back. But hopefully we will get used to it in some way. But for businesses, it's important that at every point you realize that one, the business exists to satisfy customer needs. So what are the customer needs at every particular time? Can you think if you were a business in the 1960s, for instance, and you were creating maybe cars, if you still created cars the same way you did in the 1960s for people who live in the 21st century, you would not be satisfying their needs in the full range. So a business has to consistently evaluate how are we meeting customer needs. And that's where we talk about innovation.
Sure.
And it's important that if you're not innovating quickly enough, you realize that you will be overtaken by another company, completely become redundant or irrelevant, or just not be an option for customers anymore. So in that type of situation, businesses need to consistently evaluate what are we doing, are we meeting customer needs, how are we meeting customer needs, is our product relevant, is it competitive, are we innovating quickly enough? Because you can be doing something and think that because everybody's buying it, that's the only way, until someone brings in an alternative and everybody just moves. So in that light, companies should be very clear on the fact that trends evolve. In the same way, for human beings, for individuals, trends evolve. There are new skill sets every time that you need to be able to adapt to. So if 20 years ago, being computer literate was like the main thing, where everybody just wrote on their CV, you can do Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. In 2020, that's like a given. But you need to be able to, for instance, understand big data, use numbers to make decisions, not just your feelings every time that, oh, I feel this thing will work, but what's the evidence scientifically for you to make such a decision? And individuals need to be able to develop into being able to do that. So those are skills. When we say digital skills, we don't just mean being able to use social media. We mean being able to use digital tools as an enabler for your business, or as an enabler to promote your business, or to provide solutions to customers. So before COVID, church was always regular church.
Sure.
Now, church has gone digital. I mean, my church hasn't met since March, and we're still not meeting, and it doesn't look like, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to meet anytime soon.
Sure.
So things evolve, and there are times where situations take you by surprise, but I appreciate so much now the reason to also have foresight, because if over the last maybe 3-4 years, my church has been doing digital church, and it wasn't because there was COVID. It was just because someone sat down and thought that where's the future going, and how can we reach larger audiences? So when COVID came, we're already in that space. It wasn't that we're now setting up digital church. We just went full throttle into.
It was like time to do it.
Exactly.
You've been talking about it, but it's the time.
We were already doing it actually. Okay. So we already started doing digital paying of tithe. You already had a church app. We're already having live streaming of church services, all those things. So we just adapted it and made it bigger now. And that's why foresight is important. And you need to begin to test things out, even though it might not look like it's relevant now.
Okay, so thank you for the post. Now, it's getting really nice, and I like the perspective that you're coming with. Now, are these points in your book?
No, so my book,
No, if you don't know, she is also an author. The name of the book is Sales 101.
What everyone should know about sales.
You see, what everyone should know about sales.
Yeah,
if you
so
don't have it, go and get it. I told you I'm not advertising, but I'm telling you, go and get it.
Thank you. So it's a foundational text of what the fundamental important principles of selling are. So understanding what customer behavior is, understanding what the selling process is, understanding what customer relationship management is, understanding the fact that when things go wrong, you need to try and recover. So service recovery, networking and social capital. I talk about how your network is a tool that you can use to further your business, to sell, and why social capital is important. And then I also talk about the fact that the customer is the queen. I know everybody says the customer is king, but in my book, the customer is a woman.
Hey.
And she's the queen.
You have to explain
that. So in that chapter, I pretty much talk about the fact that if we really believe the customer is very important, how do you relate the customer? Like if the most important person, the person you've always wanted to meet, walks into the room, what is your approach? If Otunfo walks in right now, I'm sure we won't just pretend we haven't seen him. We'll get up, we'll be so excited and giddy and everything.
That's a different level.
Exactly. So in the same way, I advocate that we should be aware that our customer is the most important person for the business. When they walk in, we shouldn't behave as if they are worrying us, or we close at 5 o'clock and they walked in at 4:55.
But you know that a lot of people close. Okay, so you know you're supposed to close at 5, but it does not mean that when the client comes in 10 minutes before 5, you've closed. You have to serve all of them, finish 5, and then you pack up. But a lot of people pack up before the flight, so the 5 they're out.
Yes, I've actually seen situations where 10 minutes or 15 minutes of time, they've locked their doors. So when you even get there, they won't allow you to enter. And if they're talking to you, it's almost as if, why are you worrying us? I think the biggest culprits of that are the people in the business, in the beauty and hair environments. Because
they don't like the money.
No. And they like the money, but I think they feel they're doing you a favor. So that attitude of, we're doing you a favor, it's one of the things I just advocate that we should change our mindsets. And the idea is that everyone in the organization must have a selling orientation.
Okay.
That what you do impacts on the bottom line. So if you're not being productive, at the end of the month, you don't expect your CEO to conjure money from anywhere to pay salaries. I think that conversation on productivity needs to be more pronounced. We need to increase the volume because we tend to just, there are situations where people go to work, sit down the whole day, don't do anything, and they expect to be paid. And when the company is not doing well, they don't make the connection between their lack of productivity and the fact that the revenue is not coming in. Yes.
Wow. So we are still speaking to Madam Petra Asamoah, and she's an author. The name of her book is Sales 101. Super, super exciting. I think I've read it. Have I? Ask me the question. Let me answer. Let's make sure I have read it. So ask me the questions and then I can answer. But aside that, she is a person who spent 9 years of her career life in the aviation industry with an airline and has moved on from the airline to media and now into
textile manufacturing.
Yeah. You didn't know that, but I know. Yeah, that is how come we are here today, and we are so grateful that you've had us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We are not done. We will go for a break, and when we come back, we will continue. So welcome back to Aviation Business Series, where we expand knowledge, we explore opportunities, and we celebrate milestones. There's so much happening in the lives of the people that we know. You might know somebody around you, and there's so much happening. And so today we are very excited to be here with Madam Petra Asamoah, who has really journeyed and is still on the journey.
Yes.
You're not done.
No, I feel like I haven't even started yet.
Can you imagine?
So, yeah.
You haven't started yet. Okay. But how do you know that you're ready to go to the next level? What are those skill sets that you started with, and how has the journey been?
Okay, so I guess one of the things we need to talk about is the fact that you can have a job, but you can also be building a career.
Okay. 2 words.
Yes.
A job and a career. Please.
Yes.
What's the difference?
So your job can just be, it can be a project, it can be a period of time you're in a particular role.
Okay.
But the idea is, what are you building your capacity in?
That is the career.
Yes.
Okay.
So very early, and I have Mr. Norman Williams to thank for this. When I started off, he was my immediate boss for a very long time. And one of the things he kept saying to me was, you need to build capacity in your career. So he also had a very mixed bag of experience. He had worked in IT, worked in the airline industry, and then he moved on to a totally different industry. So he was the one who gave me the idea that don't box yourself in just one thing. So
in your job.
In your job, no. Think about your career. And so very early, I started building capacity to build a career as a marketing practitioner.
So that is quite different from saying
just
I'm
working.
an airline person.
Exactly, yes. But what are you in the airline industry? And
Marketing.
that was my issue, that if you did reservations and ticketing, for instance, if you didn't build a skill set that you can transfer to another industry, then you're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I didn't want to be stuck.
So you needed to
build it, identify that,
and develop.
Yes, identify and develop. So what's the skill set you needed, and how can I transfer that skill set to another industry? So I read political science and philosophy as a first degree. And like I said at the beginning, I had no idea I would do marketing. It never crossed my mind. It wasn't even a situation where I had tried to get into the school of admin and didn't get in. No, it never crossed my mind. Political science was it for me because I wanted to go on and do law and journalism actually.
Okay.
So I've always been someone who thought about working in the communications area from a very, very, very young age. I remember I used to sit behind my TV and read the GBC announcements. I don't know if you remember, but there was a time of day where they used to run announcements. And they would run the announcements on the screen. So whilst the voiceover is running, I'll be reading to make sure that I could follow. And so for me, I've always been a communicator. But I never thought about it as something I'm naturally good at to build it into a skill. And when I went into university, my main idea was, okay, come out, get a job, get money. But we need to change the paradigm and begin to ask young people, what are you good at? And how can you make that into a skill? And once you've developed that into a skill, you can move it anyway.
I think that is the challenge where so I had that same challenge where I could only define myself in my role. Okay, but now you're teaching us that we don't have to actually define ourselves in the role.
Yeah.
We are the brand.
Exactly.
We are the people.
Exactly.
And we bring the difference to the play.
Exactly. You're just spot on. And the thing is, your job title, where you work, all those things are transient. They can be taken away from you.
But who are you then?
Exactly. Who are you? So it's taking me, I believe, about 5 years. So I started having this type of thought process.
Questions.
Yeah, asking questions, trying to discover myself in 2015.
Okay.
And I gradually started removing job titles from my name.
Wow.
So you prominently see my name just as Petra Asamoah, marketing practitioner and author. You rarely see a job title in addition to my name because I feel that my job title is my job title. It can change. It doesn't define fully who I am. It's just an addendum.
Wow.
So your company can decide to change your title. They can decide to lay you off. They can decide to join. But what are you really good at? What do people know you for? And eventually, when I picture myself in my old age, I just want to be a writer. I want to be a teacher. So those are going to be just the simple things attached to my name, not CEO or managing director of ABCD company, because those are just transient things. They can be taken away.
I'm learning so much. Like, we don't sit down and think, okay, when I'm 50, what happens? When I'm 70, how will you be known?
Yeah.
Because at that time you'll not be the CEO, but you'll be known as something.
Something, yes.
So what's that something?
And it's important that you have that thought process because then when you're talking about building your personal brand, your brand attributes are the things that nobody can take away from you. Like if someone closes their eyes and they think about you, Lady Vera, there are emotions and words that come up in their head. That's your brand. And that's what you need to be intentionally working towards.
We'll put in the quiz down there and you try it out, okay? You just have to try it out and find your own niche.
Yeah, you have to. Because I always use Coke as an example. If you like Coke, and one day you drink Coke and you don't have the feeling of what Coke is, you feel that it's not Coke. That's why I had a problem with Coke Light. Because it just didn't feel the same way, yes. So personal brands are like that. But you have to define them. You have to define for yourself, what do I want to be? Who am I, first of all? Because who you are, at the base of your personality, your shape, so the things that make you different from everybody else, those things are you. That's the essence. That is the core of your being. And then you build on them. So you develop your talent into skills, you build personal relationships with people, you grow your network, you go to school, things like that. But there's the core you that you build on. And the things that you build on are your responsibility as much as a function of the environment. Okay. So one of the things I value so much in my journey has been my exposure to other cultures. Okay. So the airline industry gives you that. Okay. The fact that you travel and meet other people, you work with people from different countries. So you begin to experience the cultural differences in how people work. So if you go to another country, you're not expecting that they will behave the same way Ghanaians behave, and you can adjust. That is a skill that you can transfer to any other industry. So on my CV, one of the things that is very prominent is the fact that I have multicultural experience working in a multicultural environment. And that's key because you would notice, for instance, there are business ethics and practices and etiquettes that may be different from country to country. So I've worked in an environment where a woman doesn't extend her hand to shake a man.
Sure.
And if you're not aware of that and you just go in there and try and be your regular self, you would offend. Exactly. You offend your customers, offend your potential business partners. So you should be aware of things like that. And so for me, the main thing in anybody's journey is skill sets. And once you develop a skill set, you can really transfer it wherever. You don't have to box yourself but there are people who decide that, okay, I want to become an expert in this area. Okay. And so even if it's marketing, they're an expert in airline marketing. That's fine.
That's true.
I just feel that for me, as I started thinking about the change, one of the things about the airline industry for me that was a bit uncomfortable was it was such a volatile environment. Like I felt that I felt that if an airline decides that they can just pack up and leave. Yeah. I mean, and I saw it so many times. They come in, they spend a lot of money establishing. As a marketing person, you work so hard to establish the brand, and then 2 years in, they just send an email and say, "We're sorry, we're not getting the load factors we expected. We are gone."
Some will come and do a handshake, okay, but they'll still go.
Yeah, they'll still go. I mean, the good thing about it is there's always the handshake, there's always the redundancy package or whatever, but they'll still go. So as the individual, you need to take authority and charge of your journey. So even if it happens, where can I go? What can I do?
Because you have identified your skill set, you can move.
Yes.
Now we are talking about adapting to the changing times, and this is a strong point that we need to take away. Finding your skill set and developing the skill set.
Yeah. And so young people ask, so you ask them they say, "Oh, Auntie Petra, I'm looking for a job." And I say, "What do you want to do?" And they say, "Anything." And I always say, no, it can't be anything. You have to be clear on what you're good at or what you can do.
Clear.
Sit down and try and be clear. I mean, even if it's administrative work, you should know that I'm good at this. Because that's the value you're taking to the organization. People don't hire people for charity. We're not just hiring you because we like you or because you came to cry that you need a job. We need you to solve a problem for us. And you don't have to be at your peak to start a job. You just have to have a basic understanding and ability to do certain things. So if you're leaving school, what can you do? Okay. You can possibly pick phone calls, set up appointments, maybe book appointments for someone. You have a specific list of things you can do. And that's where extracurricular activities come in handy. So if you're part of a group in school, what was your role? Even being a group leader of a discussion group,
it's a big deal.
It helps you build some capacity. I mean, getting your group members to arrive on time, getting your group members to do the work.
Having an agenda.
So that people don't just come and talk, and then you find out 2 hours after you've not discussed the main issue, Yeah. So we need to make young people aware that in all of these things that they're doing, they're building capacity. I was in choreography and drama on campus. And you say, okay, choreography and drama, what does that do? But I was going for rehearsals in the middle of the night and having to still wake up and go for lectures. I was building capacity. Yes, I was building capacity and being able to balance. Was I aware of it at the time? No. Okay. I wasn't aware of it at the time, but I was doing it. So that's why we encourage young people, do different things, try different things, expose yourself to opportunities. Don't just say that, okay, I'm doing banking and finance, so I'm going to work in a bank. You might end up in an environment that has nothing to do with what you studied in school. Okay. But if you build the skills.
So I know we've been speaking a lot to non-professional students, but I am hearing a lot of cry from professionals who feel stuck, who are like, I have been working for this travel and tour agency, and you are the senior most person in this travel and tour business, and you feel like if the person or the owner of the agency decides to bring their child or something in, you are still there, you are stuck, but you don't own a part of the company. Where do we start thinking about my skill set in that kind of environment?
Okay, so if you remember, I said something about job and career. There's also a third level of passion.
Okay.
So there's also you not giving the people who have skill talents that they're not working with. And that's one of the things I in my self-discovery and introspection, I got to the point where I realized that I like to write. I like to speak. My job may not necessarily give me the full expression of those things, but I have to find an outlet. So while you're in this job, and I mean, let's be real, there's so many people who are in jobs they don't like.
They don't, man.
Yes, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't work, because you have to pay your bills.
So
yes,
do that too.
you find a way to find an expression and exercise those things that you're really good at. It might be doing it voluntarily, it might be setting it up as a side business whilst you try and see how it grows and how it develops, but you have to find a way to express it. And by all means, I think the worst place in life to be is where you feel stuck.
Yeah, that's bad.
No, because as human beings, we are naturally inclined to progress. If we don't progress, we start to die. And dying doesn't mean just physical death.
Sure.
It could be emotional, it could be mental, you're not learning anything new, you're just doing the same things over and over again. And you have the same, maybe you've been on the same salary band for 5 years, and you're getting resentful. Like you said, maybe you're thinking, okay, my boss is going to bring their child to take over, and I've been here for 30 years, and and they don't appreciate me. So then frustration sets in. But I really believe that as the individual, you can always find ways to reinvent yourself and go into other things through your talents, through skills that you've built. And that's the thing. I feel that every 2 to 3 years, as individuals, we should evaluate.
Okay.
Am I improving?
Okay.
Not am I better than somebody. Am I improving? So
Yourself.
Myself. The Lady Vera I was in 2019. What has become of Lady Vera in 2020? Is it version 2.0 or version -1? You know,
today we are using it as an example. I'm saying that leave your comments, please do. We need to hear from you, so please do leave your comment, and we'll definitely get back. If you have a question, our lady will definitely answer after the show. Okay, so please go ahead.
And so it's you being a better version of yourself every single time, and I'm for me, that's an area that's very important, that we recognize that our commitment to improvement is for ourselves, not in comparison with somebody else. And for me, one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is, comparing themselves to themselves, they were not wise. So you have to identify, Petra, Asamoah, where are you going? How will you know that you're on the right path? Not in comparison to what somebody else is doing. Because I think it's easy to just look around and say, oh, I'm better than that person. But it's like a friend of mine said, it's poverty Olympics. The fact that my problem is not as big as the other person's problem, it means I don't have a problem. But that's untrue. You know you have a problem. So you don't have to compare with someone else. You really need to make individual decisions and say, where am I going? What am I doing with this? And how do I get to where I want to get to? And as you go on your journey, of course, there are going to be curves and bends and pitfalls. And I mean, sometimes you slip and you fall. But the most important thing for me is, what lessons are you learning? What lessons are you learning? How is this making you a better person? Because if you go through the same thing every year and you never learn anything out of it, then I mean, it's actually
so before we wrap up, I have 2 more questions. One is, sometimes you're not too sure of what you want to do or where you want to go in terms of adapting to change. Is it good enough for us to look around and see what others are doing to actually get to know if we want to do that?
Yes, absolutely. Your experiences, your environment impacts on your experiences. So what you see around you is important, and that's why the word exposure is critical. So if you expose a young person to other people doing interesting things, then they don't just default to one particular area. They think that's the best way. So if you expose a young person to, they can be global. They don't have to think about just doing something in Ghana. They actually can be global. Okay, so you can look around. When I was trying to move jobs, one of the things I did was to ask my friends in different industries, first of all, how much they
earn. Okay. Can people tell?
Well, they'll give you a range. In Ghana, people are very secretive with their salaries.
Yeah, I know that.
But interestingly, anytime somebody asks me, I can tell, and there was this time I was in a conversation. The person said, "Do you like your job?" I said, "Yes." "Are you paid well?" I said, "Very well." But that's the first time I've heard somebody saying they're paid very well.
Because you spoke about it.
Yeah. So you ask around. Okay. You should know what's the going rate for your job. What's the going rate for your skill sets? If, for instance, I'm a chief marketing officer in one industry, what are the other opportunities elsewhere? And what are the job, the growth areas? Okay. So if it's marketing, where is marketing growing to? Mm-hmm. What type of skills do I have to develop? So if you're a marketer in 2020 and you're not developing to be able to use digital tools and be able to adapt to digital tools and use them yourself, then you're becoming irrelevant. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's an area you can look around you and always, there's one thing I've always tried to do. Look at the best example. Okay. Don't just be comfortable with your environment. Like you're working in a company, there are 20 people, and you think you're the best person, so you're okay. I mean, this one I knew is from secondary school. You can be first in class, and then you go to vacation classes and you meet people from other schools, and you don't understand what they are even saying. So you have to expose yourself to beyond. Even your circle of friends. You shouldn't be the most intelligent person in all your groupings. Wow. No. You can't develop that way. If every time you're always the one who is correct, you're always the one who is the smartest person in the room, then you're possibly in the wrong room. You're not going to progress like that. You should be able to have people around you can say, "No, Petra, what you just said is crap. It doesn't make any sense." Wow. Yeah, I mean, what you just said doesn't make sense because A, B, C, D, and be willing to open your mind and take those suggestions. Because if you're the wisest person everywhere, I mean, nobody's Solomon. It should just be something, a commitment you make to yourself that you should listen, observe, try and grow. Having said that, also don't be intimidated.
I was going to ask you that, you get to an environment where everybody is better, doing well. They are on top of their games and you feel lost.
Yes.
Now, if you have too much of that, so how do we balance it?
So I've actually been in a situation like that a couple of times. When I started fellowship in a Christ Temple, I felt that everybody around was an achiever. And everybody around me being an achiever just made me feel that it's possible for me as well. Okay.
But you still need that support from the back.
Yes. So it's important that you realize that I believe that if somebody has done it, it means it's possible, and I can do it as well. From very, very basic things to even childbirth. When I was baby 101, I used to think that, okay, so if 18, 19-year-old young women are able to have children, why am I scared? Let me just psych myself, it can't be so difficult.
Is it because you're a career woman?
I should say that because it's sort of you see things and you are getting to the stage and like, can I do this?
Can you balance family?
Can you balance family? Can you do all of these things? But if you look at other people and say they've done it, I can do it too. That for me is a good thing. Instead of feeling that I'm very small and insignificant, and that's why having a mentor is a good thing. Good. A mentor who can challenge you. When I was writing my book, for instance, I was done with the book, totally done. Like in my mind, it was good. It was a good book. Yes, and then I sent it to a mentor of mine, and he took forever to get back to me.
Did he use red pen?
No. Okay. He got back to me, but the changes he made were impactful. So even the title of the book, originally the title was something totally different, and two of my mentors just said to me, "No, this title won't sell. Change the title." And then the book cover, I had planned, so I did couple of book cover ideas and put them on Facebook, and I had people voting, and none of the covers were accepted by my mentor. He just said to me no, and he explained to me why, because I didn't know that in authoring, you have to decide on what your focus is going to be, whether you want your content, your focus to be content driven or personality driven.
I'm sorry, my viewers, this one I am excited because it's my aim. So hold on,
yeah.
Tell me.
So if you want it to be personality driven, it means essentially it's you.
Okay.
So your picture on the cover of the book is you selling your smile, even though I have a very beautiful smile. I decided not to put my face on the cover of the book because I wanted my name to be what people remember, not just my beautiful face and the content of the book. So if I decide to do something else, they don't just remember my face, but they remember, okay, her first book was about this is what it was, the content was good, and then we want to consume other content from here. And I didn't know that. This was from a mentor who just said to me, this is what you need to do. So it took my publishing date back, but it was important and it was a good intervention. So if you surround yourself with people who can challenge you, not just people who just every time, oh Petra, you're doing very well, you're a star, you're a champion all the time. You need people around you who can tell you that way, dear. Nah.
Wow, it's nice. I'm loving it already, but I think our time is up. And before we leave, we just want a few more words from you. This July, as I said, we started off looking at development. We've gone through a lot of different sessions, and although it's going into August, we still want to hear what you think about development. Maybe a few statements.
And you mean personal development of individuals? Career. Well, I would say that individuals need to take charge of their career. They need to do it intentionally. They need to do it with a lot of flexibility and a lot of willingness to learn and adapt. Because what we were 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, is not what we are now. There's some jobs that have just vanished, are no longer relevant. I've worked in the last 5 years, I've not had any secretarial assistance. So like somebody who is typing letters, or I've actually never had such a role in any way. I've worked directly for me. So if you're still thinking about going to do stenographer 1 and stenographer 2, which might be good, you need to think about how can I make it relevant to now. Okay, so that for me is the key thing. Be aware of your environment. Be aware of what the trends are. Be aware of how you can adapt. But also maintain some amount of uniqueness. Because everybody's doing maybe law, or everybody's doing HR, or everybody's doing marketing. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to go and do it. You need to be clear on what am I going to do with this thing afterward. So it's like there's a craze for people to acquire more certification. And it's almost as if it's a status symbol. But your master's degree is a mark of you being a master at something. So what are you building capacity in? And can you actually show evidence of being a master at it? Or are you developing into that? So I feel that we should think about our career as a journey, a very positive journey. Embrace the mistakes, embrace the sad moments. I mean, there have been times where I've asked myself, are you making the right choices? And my assurance is that everything will work out for my good. So even though I ask myself those questions, I just say, whatever happens, it's going to end up for good. So chill. And then the thing about building the right support system around you, and when I say support, it's not just people helping you do things, but people helping you be better. You can be so comfortable that you don't improve anymore. But if you have people around you ask you questions and trigger your mind to think, you'll be compelled to think more and do better. And that's why it's also key that you choose that inner circle very well. Very, very well. I mean, it's okay to walk into a room and everybody's hailing you, but when you leave the room, there should be somebody who says to you, like the ancient Romans, like, you're still a human being. You're still a human being. You're not a god. Calm down.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. It's so insightful. I'm so blessed. I hope you are also blessed. I'm speaking blessed. Hey. Please leave your comment. Let us hear from you, and we'll be glad to bring back the feedback. Okay. But one of the things that Madam Petra mentioned that I want to take home, I don't know about your take home, is being aware of your environment, but still embracing your uniqueness. So although we are talking about development, please just be aware of your environment. Like I'm taking your words. Just be aware of your environment, but embrace that uniqueness of yours. And I'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Follow, like, share. Bye.